When my husband and I got married, we were both in good shape, but as I got older, my health started to decline. We were only in our 50s, and over the years, I would continually gain weight. I just didn't have the same motivation to go back to the gym and start dieting. This is where the divide between us really started to widen. When we were both overweight and chronically exhausted, neither of us really cared if our intimacy was good or bad. Unfortunately, it only took a few months for my husband to get his six-pack and his libido back, while I was still the same fat, lazy piece of dead weight. I knew he wasn't enjoying himself in bed, as he would keep his eyes closed and avoid touching me with his hands. Eventually, it came to the point that my husband was fed up. He screamed at me one night that I needed to lose weight because he was sick of trying to better himself while stuck with someone who didn't care. I knew in some sense that he was right, but it didn't make me want to change. It just made me feel more resigned to my condition. Without me knowing about it, my husband scheduled me for a doctor's appointment, then drove me there by surprise, like taking a dog to the vet. I was absolutely humiliated, but I went through with it. The doctor told me I was severely obese and that I also had type 2 diabetes. He prescribed me insulin and said I had to drastically change my diet. Believe me, I tried. My husband watched over me like a hawk for the first few weeks, making sure I was adhering to my weight loss diet. Unfortunately, I hated every second of it, and the moment he was gone, I would order fast food, then try to hide the evidence. It didn't take long for my husband to discover that I had been cheating on my diet. He gave me an ultimatum, and that if he caught me cheating on my diet again, he would cheat on me. I didn't believe him. It almost made me want to get caught, to make him realize he was just a spineless liar. I made sure he saw the fast food bags in the trash can the next day, and seemingly just as I thought, for a few weeks, he didn't say or do anything. Then, one night, without a word, he didn't come home. When he returned in the morning, I accused him of cheating. To my surprise, he didn't deny it at all. He gave me the name of the woman and the hotel they stayed in. I was floored, but then it only got worse when instead of apologizing, my husband said he wanted a divorce. On top of that, he told me that he was going on vacation to Thailand without me for a month, and that if I didn't make significant changes by the time he got back, he would go through with the divorce. That news sent me into a panic. I knew I'd be hopelessly alone if he left me, while he could go off and have any woman he wants. Desperate, I went back to the doctor and asked him if there was anything he could give me to help. That's when he recommended Ozempic. I'd heard about it before, how celebrities were taking it and how there were a bunch of bad side effects, but I felt like I didn't have a choice. Not only was my marriage failing, but so was my body. I could feel it. I knew I was going to die early if something didn't change. I was at the end of my rope. That night, I sat with myself by my bedside table, staring at the syringe, trying to get myself to go through with the first dose.
It's just a needle. You're gonna save me, right? You better. God damn it, that hurt! What's going on? What's happening to me? No! No!
Hello, I'm back from my trip. Are you home?
Holy shit! What happened to you? You wanted this. You did this to me. No, I didn't want this. Listen, I think you need to go to the hospital. Something isn't right. Nothing's ever good enough for you, is it? I'm sorry I'm not one of your lady boys. I'm sorry I'm so disgusting and you can't even stand to look at me. Stop it. I'm just worried about your health. Look, I'm sorry I left you for so long, but let me help you with this. You need surgery or something. You need a doctor. You're gonna need a whole hospital when I'm done with you.
This story was inspired by a horrific incident regarding a woman who said she felt like she was slowly passing away after taking Ozempic. The woman has said, "To people using Ozempic for weight loss, do what you have to do, but it is a diabetes medicine. That's originally what it was used for. I took Ozempic for type 2 diabetes. Both my parents are diabetic and they recommended I talk to my doctor about using it. My doctor prescribed me Ozempic after we discussed my options. It helps to lower your blood sugar levels, and honestly, it works amazing for that. However, there were side effects. Some of these can be mild, like nausea. Another one is weight loss because it's an appetite suppressant. Later on, I found out that it can cause pain, pancreatitis, and a lot of other nasty side effects. I was okay for the first few doses, but then I started to feel sick each time I took Ozempic. Things just got worse and worse. I felt great for the first few months. My blood sugar was stable and I was losing weight easily. But after about 4 months, I started slowly seeing symptoms. I would feel nauseous, like I had food poisoning. The symptoms would last for days at a time, always after I had taken it. It got to the point where I would spend days throwing up and not able to hold anything in, feeling like I was dying from something that was supposed to help me live. Eventually, I had to admit to myself, although it was helping me a lot with my diabetes, I was also suffering too much with the side effects of taking Ozempic. I had to find another medicine. The woman has since used an alternative and claims that the side effects are still bad, but not as life-threatening.
I used to live with a musical artist who ended up becoming very famous. Unfortunately, my roommate's fame came at a horrible cost. I have to keep her identity a secret, but this kind of thing is happening to millions of people, not just celebrities. My roommate was always obsessed with her physical image. However, I tried not to criticize her priorities. She was always very conscious of what she ate and how often she exercised. She also always had an unhealthy level of perfectionism. So it sadly didn't surprise me when she started talking about how she wanted to be on Ozempic. This was way back when Ozempic was first getting popular for weight loss, and not just a diabetes treatment. But even then, the negative side effects were well known, so I was deeply concerned for her. At first, I tried to convince her that she didn't need it, but she never listened to me. That's when I tried to scare her out of it, saying how it makes people nauseous when they take it, and how it could slow down her digestion so much that she could end up with rotting, undigested food in her intestines. Sadly, no matter what I said, she believed she didn't have a choice. Just a few days after mentioning it for the first time, my roommate came home from her doctor with a vial of Ozempic in her hands. All she cared about was what strangers on the internet thought about her. The doctor started her on the lowest dose, and I urged her to take it in moderation, just once a week like the doctor said. But I believe she was taking more than the recommended dosage behind my back. I couldn't help but notice gradual yet significant changes in the first month. Her face was a bit slimmer, and it looked like the medicine was helping her shed those last 10 pounds she was always complaining about. I noticed one day that her dose had been doubled. I asked her about this, but she snapped at me, telling me to stay out of her business. From that point on, I was too scared to talk to her about anything related to the issue. All I could do was watch my roommate slowly descend down the Ozempic rabbit hole. What was once a healthy amount of weight loss soon turned catastrophic, as her flesh just kept getting ripped away from her body. It was also affecting her mental state too, as she withdrew away from me and started becoming obsessive over her Ozempic schedule. It was like something was eating her alive from the inside, but I knew where it was really coming from. That's when I discovered something that horrified me. I found several discarded boxes of Ozempic, and when I looked at their labels, I realized that they were prescribed from 3 different doctors. Suddenly, I realized that she had been scheming to get more than what was healthy for her. She was taking it multiple times a week, destroying herself in some kind of misguided search for beauty. I wanted to talk to her about it, even though I knew she might flip out on me. But then, I stopped seeing her altogether. I thought maybe she had gone to visit family or something, but there was no evidence that she had left. She had just been locked away in her room for days. I felt so guilty that I hadn't tried to help. So one night, I got out of bed and went to her room.
Please, please. I don't want to do it anymore. I've already done it twice today.
You liar! You know you need it. You know you want to be the hottest you can be.
But I don't feel hot. I feel like I'm dying.
That's because you still hate yourself. It doesn't hurt to shed a few more LBs.
No. My followers all said I looked better before. Even my roommate had.
Shut up! Are you gonna listen to that bitch or you gonna listen to your doctors? Come on, put the needle in. Just keep going. After you're done injecting that goodness into your body, you can share some and stick it into that pig who keeps telling you to stop.
Who are you talking about?
You know who I'm talking about. If you stop now, you'll be just like her.
That night, I realized there was nothing I could do for my roommate. She needed major therapy. I thought the best thing I could do was to get her put into some kind of psychiatric hospital, but I decided to put that off until the morning. I got out of bed early, as I still couldn't sleep well, and stumbled over to the bathroom. I pushed the door the rest of the way open, not expecting anyone to be in there. But then I saw my roommate standing right in front of me. I backed up, terrified. She looked even worse than before, with no flesh on her bones at all. It was like she was just a walking skeleton. Then, she took out an Ozempic needle, as her devilish mouth gaped open. I thought I was about to witness her taking her last hit of Ozempic before dying, but the last thing I remember is her charging at me with the needle. This story was inspired by the rapid use of the so-called weight loss drug that has exploded in popularity this past year, and is part of the craze that has the public wondering which celebrities are on Ozempic. Ozempic is known to treat type 2 diabetes, but also has weight loss as a prominent side effect, so it is often prescribed off-label for this reason. It's hard to escape the numerous Ozempic before and after photos on social media of people who have seen drastic results while using the medication, and whenever a celebrity has appeared looking slimmer as of late, the Ozempic accusations always follow. There are a few celebrities who have spoken openly about taking the weight loss medication, but there are some that also deny such accusations. Either way, the whole thing is a sensitive topic considering the medication could cause more harm than good, depending on the public's perception of the quote-unquote victim. I lived with my fiance and soon-to-be husband. My mother also lived with us. She was always a bit self-conscious with herself, but after I got engaged, she went into overdrive. Suddenly, it wasn't just about looking good in photos. She was desperate for a big transformation. That's when my mom went to the doctors and got prescribed a medication called Ozempic. She told me she was going to use it to treat her diabetes, but I knew what her true intentions were. After weeks of using it, her weight loss was pretty alarming. It was like she was melting, not losing weight. Her clothes had become too large for her to wear, and her skin was now papery and rough. What was even more disturbing were her eyes. They used to be so loving and full of life, but now it was like she was staring out from a skull. Then, the personality changes started. They were little things at first, but then things escalated quickly to her becoming a cold bitch. She became obsessed not only with her weight, but with control. She was a totally different person.
Give me more Ozempic! Give me more Ozempic!
Mom, my wedding is in a couple of weeks.
I don't give a shit about your wedding! I just give a shit about fitting into my dress properly!
Every night, I could hear her rearranging the furniture downstairs. I could also hear her talking, like she was talking to herself. It was apparent she had lost her mind. The woman had gone completely psycho. One time, I caught her standing in the kitchen, staring at the refrigerator in the middle of the night, mumbling to herself. I began avoiding my mom altogether, and just talked to her when it was about important stuff like my wedding. But those conversations never went anywhere, and this happened all because of a substance called Ozempic. The doctor reminded her many times to use the prescribed dosage, but my mom wouldn't listen because she thought she knew better. She ignored the doctor's instructions, increasing the dosage. I never found out how much she really took, but one time, when I tried to stop her from taking any more Ozempic, she snapped and threatened to kill me. Over time, She became a paranoid, evil, and self-centered old woman. She was convinced that everyone was judging her. I just agreed with her most of the time and just avoided any arguments. My husband would sometimes also try to talk some sense into her, but she would just make death threats at him too. It got to the point where we just minded our own business and avoided her as much as we could. But I didn't want to give up on her just yet. I thought that if we simply got rid of the Ozempic entirely, then maybe she would go back to normal. One night, she stepped out of the house, leaving me home alone. That's when I took the opportunity to throw away all the Ozempic. I went through all her drawers, cabinets, and anywhere I thought she would stash it. I threw it all out in the trash and then crawled back into bed. Not long after, my mom arrived home. All I remember next was the sounds of plates shattering on the floor, followed by psychotic screaming sounds. Then I got up to see what was happening. I slowly crept down the stairs, hoping she wasn't going to snap at me. That's when I eventually saw my mom standing in the dark kitchen like a freak. That's when she charged at me and began trying to strangle me.
Where's my Ozempic, you dirty little bitch?
I don't know! You probably used all of it already! Get off of me!
She kept asking me where it was, telling me how much she needed it. All I could think of was how to get her off of me. Luckily, my fiance got home from work and managed to pull her off of me. After that, I was more than terrified. I was traumatized, but the wedding was so close, and I was desperate to believe that it was just a phase, and that she'd wake up and be herself again. My fiance and I went up to our bedroom and avoided her for the rest of the night. I didn't want to call the cops on my own mother. I just knew my husband and I would eventually move out away from her. So, I decided to take the high road and be cordial for the time being. The next morning, my husband and I went to use the washroom together, and then to the kitchen together. We didn't want to be alone in a room with her, especially with what happened last night. When we got into the kitchen, we saw the most disturbing thing ever. We saw my mom lying on the kitchen floor. And what creeped me the hell out was that she was still smiling in a twisted, psychotic way. I knew that image would haunt me forever. Fast forward to my wedding. It was more like a funeral. While I was walking down the aisle towards my husband and the priest, all I could see was her casket, and then her sitting up from it, smiling at me saying,
Give me more Ozempic!
This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding an Australian mom who wanted to slim down in time for her daughter's wedding by taking Ozempic, known for inducing dramatic weight loss, but had sadly passed away. The victim was a 56-year-old woman named Trish Webster who started taking Ozempic after struggling to lose weight through the traditional means, her husband Roy Webster would say. The 56-year-old, who did not have diabetes, saw a TV ad for Ozempic and obtained a prescription from her doctor in 2022 after learning that significant weight loss was one of the drug's side effects. Her daughter was getting married and she just kept mentioning that dress that she wanted to wear. So she went into drastic measures, her husband said. He also stated Trish lost 35 pounds in 5 months, but also experienced severe nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. The situation took a turn for the worst when Roy noticed brown stuff coming out of Trish's mouth. I realized she wasn't breathing and started doing CPR, he remembered. Unfortunately, his efforts were to no avail.